So welcome everyone. My name is Sarah Spear-Barrett and I'm the Dean of Advising, and I'm here to give a short presentation for you, and then we'll be having you break out into smaller breakout rooms with each of our professional academic counselors where we'll be able to answer some questions for you. So the picture you see here is the team of professional academic advisors who've been working with you since you were admitted actually, and looking at your academic records and recommending your fall courses and helping to answer the questions you've been posting in the New Triton Advising site. We're really happy to be here with you in our Zoom orientation. Obviously, it's not our normal or desired way to have orientation, but it's what we all have now for our new normal. I'm going to review a few things, some of which you may have already seen in Compass or Canvas and the New Triton Advising site. They're very important to review, and we want to make sure that you understand where to find some of the information that will be helpful for you. We want you to know that even though we aren't here physically on campus, we are here to help you throughout your time at UC San Diego and want you to feel comfortable coming in to see us. Next slide. So here's a list of common concerns. This word doodle, actually the larger the word shows the more students have found it as a concern. And this has been done over the last 3 years at orientation. So we know that some of these things are things that we have either covered in our webinars or on the New Triton Advising site over the summer, or maybe things that we cover now. Also could be things that we talk about in your small group. Some of these concerns may be different in the environment we're in now. So you can go ahead and add concerns to the chat, and our academic counselors will be looking at some of those as we go. Some people may be responding to them. So you can use the chat feature during this to put in any of the concerns that you have that hopefully we can try to address for you. Next slide. FERPA, Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, is a federal law that protects your privacy regarding your records. The UC system goes above and beyond that in our policies and covers everything such as disciplinary records, financial aid records, and other records directly related to the students. So unless there's a waiver, we can't disclose anything to anyone. So your family members often get frustrated saying, we pay the tuition, why don't we see their grades? We're gonna beg you to find a way to show your parents your grades through screenshotting them or printing them out for your parents to see so that they don't call yelling at us, and maybe have a good conversation about what expectations there might be about your grades, knowing that things will really change as you go to college. Please don't share your password with anyone, including your parents, to allow them to see your grades, because if they went in there and accidentally changed your grading option in a class, you're responsible for any actions on your account. You can do waivers that allow us to release this information. It's a different waiver with each office. So for instance, if you sign a waiver with ERC Academic Advising, that there has to be a separate waiver with ERC Student Affairs if you wanted to discuss things there. That doesn't mean we send information out. It means if they called us or contacted us, we could share the information, or if they came in for an appointment, then they could share the information with us, or we could share it with them. But we can't send anything out to your parents. So really, even if you're under 18, your record is your record now. And so it's a good time to have a discussion with any supporters that you have who may be helping you get through college about how to talk about how you're doing. Next slide. So one of the main roles that we play right now is to help you make decisions. We're not going to give you the answer to a lot of things. We may give you the different options that are available. The way you make decisions and for what reasons may be a little different this fall as we see how our world progresses. But there may be some decisions that are normal, like whether or not you want to plan ahead to go and study abroad. Or maybe you think you're not doing as well in some classes as you thought, or you've lost interest in your major and are thinking about changing your major. Maybe you're feeling like you need to drop a class because you got behind in it. So there will be times at UCSD when you don't do well in classes, and you may see grades that are not the same as what you've seen before. And that's what we're here for. Sometimes in some of these questions, if you had really specific questions about study abroad, for instance, we might refer you to study abroad because we're the generalists and can answer general questions about the university and specific about ERC, but we want you to make sure that you meet with the experts in areas where their expertise is going to matter. So things like financial aid, we know general things about financial aid, but if you had specific questions, we would definitely refer you to them. Not because we want you to run around, but because we want to make sure that you get the right answer from the right people. Next slide, please. So ELWR, entry-level writing requirements. All of you have either ideally met this requirement or taken a placement exam that puts you into either AWP 3 or AWP 4A. If you have not taken a placement exam and you have not met this requirement, your option is to enroll in AWP 4A if there's a seat, or give up 1/4 of eligibility. They won't be offering any additional exams this summer. So it's important for you to know that this requirement is the only requirement that's really timed. You have to complete it by the end of your freshman year, unless you're placed into the 4A, 4B sequence, which sometimes you're allowed to take again if you need to. But it's vital that you enroll in this course if you were tested into 4A or 3. If there are seats, if not with 4A, waitlist it for right now, and then they'll give you some options later on. But this is a one requirement that we actually track you for graduation. It has to be completed by the end of your first year. Next slide. Math placement. So many of you already took a math placement exam or were able to start in our calculus sequence based on AP or SAT scores. If you need calculus for your major or may need it for something like a career, for instance, you want to be pre-med and you're a history major, and you didn't take calculus in high school, you would probably need to take the placement exam. If you have questions about this, you can go to the website listed on this slide, mathtesting.ucsd.edu, and they have a placements tab there that can show you how you can place into this or whether or not you need to take the placement exam. That exam is offered to proctor you, so it is available right now if you do need it. Next slide, please. So full academic load. This is one of the things that's really different for you. When you go to college on the quarter system, 3 to 4 classes is the minimum full academic load. This is the minimum units needed for full-time tuition, although you'll be charged full-time tuition even if you drop below 12 units unless you qualify for part-time. You must be a full-time student to maintain your financial aid, your campus housing, international visa status, or student athlete standing. Now, while I say that, it's also important to know that if you're not going to successfully complete 12 units each quarter, we'd want to talk to you because there are exceptions based on that if you're not going to pass a class. But you should be enrolled as a full-time student if at all possible. If you think you're not doing well and you're in 12 units, we want you to come meet with us. For those of you who are on Cal Grants, this funding is limited to 4 academic years. And so in order to graduate in 4 years, you would need to complete an average of 15 units per quarter. Now, this does vary depending on whether you have AP credit or IB credits or transfer work, but that's the general for it. You can view the academic plans for your major after you've completed, for your major on our website, and we'll go through that in our small groups. And after you've completed your first quarter at UCSD, you can contact us in your major department and we can work on a more specific plan for you. We want you to finish your first quarter so we have a good sense of how you're doing and how the 12 to 16 units went your first quarter, and all of those pieces to create a plan for you. We generally recommended 16 units per quarter if possible, especially for fall. This will help you stay on track to graduate in 4 years, and it also allows you the flexibility to drop 1 class during the quarter and still maintain the minimum full-time load. Consider remote learning will not be easier, and in some ways it can be more challenging, especially if you're at home and have other distractions. If you find that the case and you're in 4 classes, you can definitely drop down to 3 classes and still be in 12 units. If you're going to go less than 12 units, again, we'd want you to come in and talk to us so we can talk about some of your options. Next slide. One of the things with the quarter system is how quickly it can go by compared to your friends that are on the semester system. And many of you were on the semester system when you were in high school. Some of you maybe have been on quarters, but it was a little bit different. So if you look at the slide we have and compare how quickly the quarter system goes by, you're going to start having midterms or papers or rough drafts due around week 3. So it means you need to dive right in on day 1 and be ready to go in those classes. So if you're waitlisted for a class, you definitely want to contact the faculty member and make sure if they're using Canvas, you're added to it or you know how to access the lectures starting day 1, even if you're waitlisted. Because anytime you lose can put you behind very quickly. It doesn't give you a lot of time to get sick or take a break or a week off to go visit your family. You really have to stay with it the whole entire time. And so we just want you to be aware of how quickly it goes by so that you're really ready to jump in right at the beginning. You will have midterms usually between weeks 3 all the way up sometimes through week 9. And then finals are after week 10. And most classes do have a final. Next slide. deadlines. So thinking about this quarter system, it's really important to be aware of these deadlines, which are all posted on tritonlink.ucsd.edu. And if you sign up for the UCSD app, you will get push notifications as well for the deadlines. So the second week deadline that's listed on here is the deadline to add classes. So if you're waitlisted, you need to be added into the class by the second week. And be aware that if you're waitlisted, somebody has to drop the class to make room for someone else to get in. They're not just going to magically make classes bigger. So you need to be aware if you're waitlisted to look for some options. The deadline to change your grading option is week 4, and also the deadline to drop without a W. So if you drop the class by week 4, it will never show up in your transcript. We can see if we looked that you were enrolled in it, but there's nothing on your transcript if you drop by week 4. That's also the deadline to change your grading option. And for your first quarter, we have recommended that you take everything for a letter grade because most major courses are required for a letter grade, and you don't yet know how you're going to do in a class. And we often find students get an A and signed up for something pass no pass. And once you change that grading option and you get to 4th week, you can't change it back again. So it's much better to see how you're going to do before you start opting into pass no pass options for you. All the transactions that you do on WebReg can be recorded and emailed to yourself, and we recommend you do that because sometimes students forget to do the final submit button. You'll know you did the final submit button when it asks you if you want to email yourself a copy of the transaction, and that way you know you've done everything. Week 6 of the quarter, so just past halfway of the quarter, you have to make a decision whether you're going to complete the class or drop it. If you drop it between weeks 4 and week 6, you get a W grade on your transcript. It's not a penalty. It's not a negative in your GPA. It's not something you want to do constantly. It's not something that you'd want every quarter, but sometimes things come up and you need to drop. You got sick, you realized you want to change your major and you don't need to finish that class. You realize that you have a conflict with it. There's a variety of reasons why you might drop at that point. Usually by then you've gotten a midterm back or some reflection of your grades. And so you can drop by week 6 and have a W on your transcript. After week 6, you're finishing the class at that point. Now, if you get sick or some personal things come up between week 6 and finals week, get in contact with us so we can talk to you about whether there's any options or not. But basically, week 6 is a deadline that's really strictly enforced, and you are considered responsible for these. Professors don't announce deadlines. They aren't warning you of it. They're not obligated to give you grades by week 6. It's just most of them have, but you need to make some decisions by week 6, whether or not you're going to stay in the class. Next slide. Many of you have already used the Ask a Question option in the new Triton Advising now, the Virtual Advising Center, vac.ucsd.edu. You've already posed a lot of questions, and we keep those questions. They're part of your academic record. Through this tab, you can post questions to your major, to other academic departments, questions about minors, or to your college. And all of those questions and answers are saved in your file so we can each see them, and we're able to then kind of put your whole record together for you. We want to encourage you to use this option. Usually the questions are answered within 1 business day. So it's a great way to get a quick question answered. Sometimes we may say, this is something we really need to talk to you about more in person. So come into our drop-in hours or something like that. But it is a way to ask quick questions and get information quickly. Not every office on campus is on the VAC. So like financial aid's not on the VAC. There's some other offices that are not. So sometimes we'll have to refer you outside of that. But the academic departments, your major, and all of the colleges are on the back. Next slide. Speaking of academic departments and accessing people, if you would like to meet with an advisor, either in a department or in the college, you can go to the Meet with an Advisor tab in the VAC, and that will tell you how they're meeting with you and what hours they're available, whether they're doing walk-in and drop-in hours or whether you actually need to make an appointment and how that's available and to request that. So this is a really good tab for you to be aware of and to be able to utilize. We're just starting to populate it up with the Zoom environment. So some departments may not have information on there, in which case you need to go to their website, but for the most part, this is how you would be able to reach us.